New fears: Vladimir Putin is ramping up his brutality because time is running out for his military. According to reports, Russian forces are getting low on equipment and manpower and may only be able to fight full strength for 10 to 14 more days. Despite evidence of war crimes, the White House saying there's no red line.
We don't like red lines around here, so I'm not going to use that phrasing. But you are obviously correct that he's been very clear and consistent about that he does not have the intention of sending U.S. troops to Ukraine. That has not changed.
And Republican Senator Tom Cotton calling on Biden to actually stand up to Putin.
What we should stop doing is worry about what Vladimir Putin thinks will be escalatory. Quit letting him set the terms of how we will support Ukraine. We should get off the back foot, get on the front foot, and make Vladimir Putin worried about what will be escalatory.
So, Sandra, they don't like red lines. What do you make of that? I mean, that's basically, you know, we're not gonna take a stand, or maybe they're just keeping their cards close to their vest.
I think tomorrow will be a big moment. Zelensky's he's gonna make his statements very heard for U.S. members of Congress tomorrow. Here's what I think. As far as the progression of all of this, I think you go back to Ambassador Volker's words, that this is a defining moment in all of this. And we have to start saying what we are going to do rather than what we will not do. And I listen to Jen Psaki every day. Judge, you see, if you're watching, a lot of times we have her briefings. And they are very quick to say what they will not do and not broadcast what we don't. As far as Lindsey Graham earlier today saying why he believes that the U.S. is not getting involved, and President Biden folded like a cheap suit, I think was his exact words, on getting involved with the transfer of those MiG jets. He says he believes Putin got in his ear and threatened escalation if you do. And therefore, we are letting Putin determine the next moves of the United States in this fight. And that has to come to an end.
Jesse, what should we do? Senator, what's the senator? I can't remember.
Senator Tom Cotton.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. He says we should be setting the terms. What would those terms be?
I remember when Trump just threatened to nuke everybody. I didn't want to bring that up, but I did look into that today. So he threatened to nuke North Korea. Remember, yes. My button is bigger than yours, and my button works.
Right.
He threatened to nuke the Iranians. He said, we are the consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. And then he told Putin that if he invaded Ukraine on his watch, he'd nuke Moscow. And then he said all options were on the table in Venezuela. You know, I like that line. All options are on the table. And then he threatened Mexico. He was going to designate the cartels as terror groups. That means you can go drone inside Mexico proper. Now, remember those 4 years? It seemed chaotic, but it was relatively stable on the world stage. Biden's approach is so conventional. It's like he's a NATO hawk, but a typical liberal dove. It's like your typical, Washington business lunch. You get, your steak and your salad and your unsweetened iced tea. It's obvious. That might not work, though. So what we're asking is, Joe, order off the menu. Maybe a naval blockade. Maybe the missile defense system that I suggested. Maybe you pay a visit to his girlfriend in the Swiss Alps chalet, knock on the door with a strippergram. I'm just saying, get inside the guy's head, do something that he's not expecting, because you have about a week and a half, 2.5 weeks before Kyiv is surrounded, and then you have no leverage after that.
Geraldo, we were talking in the green room that we keep hearing competing narratives. The Russians are on the run. That's according to UK defense sources. But then you look at the map, and the map doesn't look good.
I think that this is not about Biden. This is about Putin. Putin has utter disregard for human life. He doesn't care. He'll send those troops charging. An American commander will see an outpost, an enemy strong point, and flank it and do all the Russians will keep slamming it, till finally, if there's a last Russian left, this is an existential crisis right now. And for us to believe that Putin will submit to the mother of all negotiations that Greg keeps promoting, I think is extremely naive, with all due respect. He's not going to...
What's your solution? You keep saying you don't have a solution.
My solution is you have to beat him. You have to beat him. If this is a limited war now, it makes no sense to me not to deliver the MiG-29s. If this is a limited war, it makes no sense to not take those Patriots and get them into Ukraine.
Yeah.
Get them into you, because the only red line right now is the blood of the Ukrainian people fighting the Russians. Amen. They are defending the free world. That's the front line of humanity, civilization right now. That's what it is. It is Zelensky and the Ukrainians, and we have to give them whatever we can without putting Americans in the cockpit or behind the buttons of the Patriot missile system. I think that you can do it. You stop advertising everything, fight them. The thing about the Russians, very quickly, the thing about the Russian army, they're saying now that as evidence of the Russian army falling apart, they're looting, killing, and terrorizing that's a weapon.
They always
That's
do
a
that.
weapon. They're looting, and they don't have supplies, but they'll loot anyway. They'll terrorize anyway. Ask the German women who they feared at the end of World War II.
Judge, last word.
I disagree with Geraldo. Geraldo said it's not about Biden, it's about Putin. So the question that I ask you, Geraldo, is why didn't Putin do this when Trump was president? And I don't bring up President Trump that much, okay? But I tell you right now that he didn't do it when Trump was president because he knew that Donald Trump would come in. If you touch one hair on one innocent civilian, he wouldn't care, NATO or non-NATO. And don't tell me that Putin isn't afraid of someone. Biden is responsible for the decline of the West. What we are seeing right now is I can't say the word, is a wuss. We've got a bully in the yard, in the playground yard, in the schoolyard, and everybody's back at the fence, all right?
How do you know?
Wait a minute, let me finish. All we have to do is we have enough oil in Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And we could be our own superpowers. But right now, the Biden administration is not only hurting the Americans and all this hashtag blame Putin, TikTok nonsense. All this is crap. All he has to do is turn to America and let us be the strength.
And how
he
do you
is
know?
Destroying the West.
How do you know that Putin wasn't playing Trump? How do you know?
When you see that he wasn't playing Trump.
When Trump
he didn't invade when Trump was president.
I love Trump.
It's not about loving Trump. It's about the fact that Trump had everybody against the wall.
How do you know
and
that
don't think
Putin
it was
didn't
anything
think
different.
Trump would give him
I don't
Ukraine
give
anyway?
a damn what Putin thinks. I only care what Putin did. And he was a wuss when Trump was president. And that's the end of it.
There you go. That might be my favorite conversation of this whole year. We're monitoring the latest from Ukraine, but in the meantime, a suspected serial killer nabbed after a murder spree in 2 liberal cities.